Well, that was an absolutely lovely finale to a very satisfying season. Dare I say, the more low-stakes nature of this series makes it one of the most enjoyable trips that we've ever had to Westeros, not to mention it could possibly be even one of the best trips to Westeros that we've ever had. I know, we've had a lot of good content with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon over the years, and this is only one season, so maybe it's too soon to tell, but this could be better than all of those ones. So let's discuss this finale and give you my overall score for this season as a whole. After last week's extremely brutal trial of the Seven, we see in the beginning of this episode that Dunk is very much feeling a case of survivor's guilt. Why me? Why did I survive? Why did this really brave warrior die and I got to live? And it's understandable why he would be feeling like that. He didn't force these people to volunteer, but he asked them to, and they volunteered to defend him, and now some of them are dead. Baelor is dead. You do see a quick shot of Baelor's funeral in this episode, and you can see that the Targaryen family is very much reeling from the loss of one of their own. It's pretty clear that he didn't mean to kill his brother. I don't think he did. I think it was an adrenaline thing and the heat of the moment, not to mention he is just trying to defend his son and making sure that his son is safe because he loves his son just as much as he loves his brother. And in the swing of things, I think that he did something that he didn't mean to be quite as hard, but it was just that adrenaline. I could be reading into things. This is a Targaryen after all. He could just be a piece of shit, but the vibe I got from him throughout this episode is that he's feeling a whole bunch of remorse and regret over everything that transpired. Last week, after we saw that horrible moment and we saw that Baelor was in fact going to pass away, I was in shock. I felt like, man, this guy did an honorable thing. He stood up against his own family and now he's dead. I just felt like really shitty about it, even though he's not real. But then in this episode, Sir Lionel basically implies that Baelor wasn't really that brave at all because he volunteered to fight against people that were sworn to not hurt him. So did he only volunteer for this trial of 7 because he thought his chances of survival were 100%, like he thought he had no danger? Baelor did end up dying either way, so does the reason why he volunteered matter too much? Should we still be feeling the same amount of grief that Dunk is? I don't know, guys. Put your thoughts on that in the comments. My thought is that, yeah, it's still sad. It's still a shitty thing that this guy died trying to defend Dunk. Here's a moment that I did not see coming. Sir Raymond being a straight up player. It kind of reminded me a bit of that episode in Game of Thrones when Tyrion got a call girl or whatever, an escort for Podrick, and then Podrick ended up being a killer in the sheets and everyone was like in total shock. That's kind of the vibe because Podrick's vibe and this guy, Sir Raymond's vibe, very, very similar. I would not expect either of these. It's always the ones you least expect that have the most game. During this episode, we see Prince Maker ask Dunk to take Egg as a squire. He wants him to take Egg and teach him the ways and help him gain some discipline, and he offers this nice kingdom for them to stay in. And at first, Dunk says, no, I'm all done with princes. And then you can see that moment, because Egg was eavesdropping, he heard the whole conversation, and you can see that moment of being rejected by Dunk really, really irked him and made him feel betrayed and upset. And then we see this really kind of disturbing and scary scene from Egg later on in the episode. I don't like seeing Egg in that uniform, and I don't like seeing these dark, gloomy stares that he has. You can see that there is a darkness going on in him. Between this shot where he's looking at his hair in the mirror and starting to see that Targaryen hair coming back, and then he goes into the room with this knife. What was he actually going to kill his brother? Is Egg actually capable of straight up murder like that? It makes me pretty nervous because he seems like a good kid, but then you see moments like this and you see, okay, maybe that Targaryen madness did make it through to him. Maybe he's trying to prevent that by partnering up with Dunk. Maybe he feels it. I think he probably does. But I'm really hoping that being around the good-hearted nature that is Duncan, Sir Duncan the Tall, is going to improve and help Egg learn how to not be one of those typical Targaryens, how to not give in to any kind of dark temptations that he may be feeling, because it does seem like he has a resentment towards his family and some darkness going on that may not be good for the realm. This was certainly a slower episode than last week's episode, but after that crazy intense episode that we just had, did we really need another crazy intense episode? It made sense to me that this episode kind of hit the brakes and, you know, people are healing from their battle wounds and, you know, trying to assess everything that went down. I think there's something brilliant about the way this show is portrayed. It's got plenty of that Westeros violence, that George R.R. Martin gore that we're expecting, but there's also something kind of a bit more lighthearted about the way this series is presented as well. There is this story at the end of the day of these two people, these two guys, and this bond and this connection. And that kind of gives it a little bit more of a buddy kind of storyline that I think makes it feel a bit more lighthearted and just more enjoyable. This is a way more enjoyable series than the stuff that we normally get. The other stuff, I love it. You know, it's addicting. I like the intensity of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, but I do really find the slightly lighter toned pacing and vibe to this series to be just very, very alluring. I said it before and I'll say it again. Egg is looking for someone to believe in. He needs to believe that there is good in people. He's seen the darkness that his brothers are showing. It does not make him feel good. And he's looking for something, anything, to provide him with that hope. And that hope is coming in the form of Duncan. And Dunk very much needs someone to believe in him. He's lost everybody in his life that he ever cared about. Anyone that ever believed in him is now dead. And yet he's got this kid that he likes to talk down to and be really harsh to. But you can tell that he does love Egg. He cares about Egg, and he really does want to spend time with Egg. He just feels like he could be bad for Egg, but in the end, he needs someone to believe in him. And that is exactly what he gets from this relationship with Egg. He's getting someone that is in his corner. And that's exactly why these two are just an amazing pair, and why I think I'm more excited for a second season of this series than I am for the next season of House of the Dragon. There's actually some very excellent imagery in this final episode too. I'm talking about this moment where you see Dunk and Egg riding away on the horses, and right near them is Sir Arlen, and then he takes a turn and leaves. It's basically like a passing of the torch. Like, I taught you, and now you are going to teach this boy. And I thought that is just some deep imagery right there. All in all, this was a very stellar season. I was not interested in watching this series. I saw the commercials and I was feeling a bit burned out after House of the Dragon season 2 kind of let me down. It started out strong and then it let me down. So I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I care about seeing any more of Westeros. But then I said, you know what? I need to try it. I checked the show out and I was immediately pulled in, because this show feels different than anything we've gotten from Westeros so far. So I'm saying that this was an excellent episode. I'm giving a thumb up to this episode, and as a whole, I'm giving this first season a 10. That is an extremely high score because I think that this show really nails so much. It's got that heartfelt feeling to it. I think that's what it is, actually. It's heartfelt. There's a heartfelt quality to a show taking place in Westeros. Isn't that just freaking nuts? There is. And that is why I think this show was so excellent. This is a show worth checking out. If you have been on the fence, don't be. Check this series out. You're going to feel different about this, because this does not feel like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. This feels like its own thing, and that's exactly why it is a success. Put your thoughts on this season, put your thoughts on this episode in the comments. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to hear more things from me, subscribe to this channel. Later.